in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees. They are in the groaning woods. They are in the crying grass. They are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to being. It's the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. It's the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Those who have died have never, never left. The dead have a pact with the living. They are in the woman distressed. They are in the wailing child. They are with us in our homes. They are with us in the crowd. The dead have a pact with the living. So listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to being. It's the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. It's the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters.
Now we'll do another one, which I think should be known to a lot of people. And we're going to sing it through once together, and then we are going to have a round. Kathy Hopkins is here, so I had to do that. This will be side one, and Emily will lead side two. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near, gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body.
theme for October. To whom do you listen? To whom do you want to listen? How can listening to one another restore and strengthen the network of humanity? We have many activities planned for this week. Please read the announcements in your order of service to learn more. If you're new or visiting for the first time, I invite you to fill out the yellow pew card and place it in the offertory plate. You can also drop it off at the welcome table in the parlor after the service, right through those doors. This is where we gather to have coffee and snacks and conversation after the service. So before we light the chalice, let us take a moment to greet those who are around us and to learn our neighbors better. Thank you. Today, our chalice will be lit by Sarah and her son Felix. Please come forward. Please join me in saying the chalice lighting words which are printed in your order of service. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action.
I will listen as you speak, constructing an armature of questions that invite you to say more. I will listen with my heart as you unwind your thoughts and chance to explore and expose all that you feel. In this precious moment of mutual grace, I will sit in the quiet of your words and use your taking of my time as an opportunity to give.
I'm going to invite my friends who have agreed to help with our baskets to come on up and grab a basket. You can find our Side with Love collection information in your order of service. And I'm going to invite everyone else to rise in body or spirit and join us for hymn number 347, Gather the Spirit. the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind. Seeds for the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall. The chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again.
Good morning, friends. It is always such a joy to be here with you each Sunday morning. Now is the time when I invite anyone up who is young or feeling particularly young at heart to come on up and have a seat on the steps for our time for wonder. Come on up, friends. So good to see all of you. All right, so I actually need two people to help open up the Wonder Box today. So I'm gonna have Allie and Gwen open this up for me. All right, what'd you find inside? A camel costume. All right, I think Allie and Gwen are having a little disagreement about our camel costume in the Wonder Box this morning. All right, have any of you ever had a disagreement with someone? Yeah, I think I should see everyone's hand up right now, right? I've also had a disagreement with someone. In fact, friends, it's impossible to always agree with what everyone thinks about everything all the time, right? So part of deep listening, which is our theme for this month, is listening to others that we disagree with. So with that in mind, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story, and it does have to do with camels, all right? So once upon a time, there was a man who died, and in his will, he left his camels to his 3 children. So the man who died had 17 camels, and he left half of those camels to the oldest child, 1/3 of those camels to the middle child, and 1/9 of those camels to the youngest child. Now, Guthrie is giving me a face up here because he is thinking what these 3 children immediately found and what caused a big argument. Right, because you can't divide, how do you divide 17 into half and into 1/3 and into 1/9? So this caused a big disagreement with these 3 children. So they called in a wise woman to help them with the problem. So the wise woman listened patiently to this conundrum that they had about how to divide these 17 camels so that the oldest would get half, the middle child would get 1/3, and the youngest would get 1/9. So she listened patiently, and she thought about it for a while, And then she went away, and she came back, and she said, here is an additional camel, and now you have 18. And the children were immediately like, well, that's not fair. That's cheating. That's not what the will said. And she said, hold on a second. So now we have 18 camels. She said, so half of 18 camels is, half. What's half of 18 camels? You're one ahead of me. 9. So she said, okay, here you go, eldest child. You can have 9 camels. And then what's a third of 18 camels? 6. So to the middle child, she said, here are your 6 camels. And that leaves us with a younger child who's supposed to get a 9th. And what is 1/9 of 18 camels? 2. She says, so now your 9 camels plus your 6 camels plus your 2 camels equals 17. She said, and that means that there's 1 left over, but don't worry, I'll take that one away with me. It's an amazing math problem. So, friends, the 18th camel is what we call the common ground, right? When we can find that 18th camel in our disagreements, we can find a way to listen to one another. And what that does is sometimes it can solve the problem, and sometimes it can't. But even when it can't solve the problem, it helps us to understand where the other person is coming from. Because sometimes we can disagree in ways that cause us to feel hurt and angry. And other times we can disagree in ways that can actually bring us closer together and give us more understanding of one another. So as we move forward, especially into the weeks that are coming, I'm going to invite all of you to listen for that common ground, to try to find that 18th camel, right? So that we can all listen deeply to one another and include that in our living and our loving. All right, if there are parents or caregivers who have not signed your young people into religious exploration, I'm going to invite you to join all of us in the parlor right now. And I'm going to invite everyone else to sing us out using Where You Go, which you can find in the back of your gray hymnal. What are we doing? We'll take the camel with us. As I said, this one's extra for me. We're going to sing Beloved.
Where you go, I will go, children. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, children. Where you go, I will go. And your people are
Good morning. Now is the time for joys and sorrows. In a spirit of reverence, love, and care, we take time now to bear witness to some of the joys and sorrows of our community, to share those events that call for our prayers and support, our praise and celebration. The Joys and Sorrows team would like to thank Walt Peck and Renee Rogers for their compassionate and faithful service to our beloved community, presenting Joys and Sorrows on Sunday morning. They both have stepped back this year, but we want to thank them for the Sundays that they were here and presenting Joys and Sorrows. For those we are holding in our thoughts, in our hearts, and perhaps in our prayers, into this community, into this space of healing and hope, let us call these names out loud or speak them in our hearts right now. We extend loving kindness to all in our world, and let us not forget to expend loving kindness to ourselves. Today, tomorrow, and beyond, let our hearts be outstretched in kindness, and let us keep showing up to our lives and each other with an open heart, no matter what. Love and courage to us all. Blessed be and amen.
I invite you to get comfortable now for our time for meditation. I will read some words from our UU ancestor, William Henry Channing, and then we will have some silence, and then I'll come back with a little song. So if you want to open up your teal hymnal to 1069 so those words are ready, or you may already know it by now. We've been doing it for a couple of weeks. All right, here are the words of William Henry Channing. To live content with small means, to seek elegance rather than luxury, and refinement rather than fashion. To be worthy, not respectable, and wealthy, not rich. To study hard, think quietly, talk gently, act frankly. To listen to stars and birds, to babes and sages with open heart. To bear all cheerfully, do all bravely, await occasions, hurry never. To let the spiritual, unbidden, and unconscious grow up through the common. This is to be my symphony. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, taste your tears. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears.
Each week, we take an offering to sustain the important ministries and programs of this congregation and its presence in Ithaca and Tompkins County. Giving to the plate is important. It's a symbol of our gratitude for this service and for our ongoing commitment to support the work of this church. Speaking personally for a moment, my wife Sue and I provide support to the church because we view it as an investment which is paid back through the programs, the fellowship, the community, and the inspiration that this church community provides. For those watching remotely, instructions for giving using your phone or computer will appear on the screen during the offertory music, and the information below the live stream image on YouTube. For those attending in person, our ushers will now pass the plate. Please join me in saying the offertory words printed in your order of service. May these gifts bring about connection, inspiration, and engagement within these walls and beyond.
Good morning. As I was sitting and thinking about the concept of listening, it brought me back to a brother I have, who I grew up in a family with, and I have 5 brothers, and we were greatly influenced by their ridiculousness. And I have a good relationship with him now. We joke and laugh together all the time, which is fun. But what I realized at some point is that every time we come back to talk, he tells me things that he thinks I said that I never said in my life to anyone, let alone to him. And I realized like he's the worst listener in the world. He just doesn't listen, but somehow we have a good time talking anyway. But anyway, that's the things I was thinking about. I think about the concept of listening and the beauty of how it pieces us together in a certain way that can really expand our intimacy and our connection to one another. One of the beauties of listening lies in the profound ability to connect to everyone around us. Here are some of the delightful aspects of this beauty. Listening allows us to step into the tale of another's life, fostering empathy and even love. When we listen, we have the opportunity to validate the feelings and experiences of others, create a deeper understanding and a deeper connection, which is exactly what we're trying to do with this community, not just in this room, but outside, to bring us all closer together. I like that ring. I have Neil Young. Active listening with the intent to get it, to understand, to feel what someone is saying strengthens relationships. It shows that we give room to the thoughts and opinions of others and that we care enough to be with them. In this, we can establish trust and stimulate a closeness that all of our hearts need. When we listen, we open ourselves to new ideas and perspectives. We lay the foundation of growth, add to our own stories, challenge our own beliefs, and expand our understanding of the world around us. Without listening, we would know far less. Listening encourages us to be present, yet to integrate the past and future into the learning that takes place when we interact with others. We talk about, we're trained to think about listening in a way that makes us not present. Our minds are always going, even when we're listening. We don't void our own thoughts. We're processing. We're trying to identify. We're trying to find things that we may not understand and sort them out in our own thinking. So listening, the active form of listening, is much more than we're taught that it is. It requires focus, but it also requires a mental disbursement that keeps us from negatively judging the speaker or locking them in through the lens of contemporary cliches that put us all in boxes. Sometimes when we're listening, we are writing that person's story before they tell it to us. We're making assumptions about where they're going and the direction that they're going to take. And that kind of listening is damaging. It really is. Because when we don't listen, when someone comes back to us hoping that we understood what we said, we will fail at being able to do that. Listening can spark creativity and inspiration. It can ignite our imagination as we hear things and ideas that we might incorporate into our own thoughts. Listening can be a form of healing for the listener and for the speaker. It is an invitation into a space that expresses emotions and can be a great source of comfort to others. In essence, the beauty of listening is not just in hearing words, but in the connections, insights, and understandings that arise from doing so. It is a gift to others and to ourselves. It is the setting free of the human need to be in communion with others and to the world. I am an ordained, clinically trained chaplain. The skill of listening is tested through the writing of something they call verbatims. Now, verbatim it requires a trainee to sit with their clients, as they call them, with no paper, and to come back and write word for word what was said. My first words to my supervisors, one an imam and one a nun, was, "You know that's not possible. You're lying." After several visits with my clients, and I was a chaplain in 2 prisons and with the largest veteran hospital in Brooklyn, I learned how to listen in that way, where I could walk out and virtually record almost word for word what was said. It was a beautiful process, because one of the things you're actually doing is watching, not just listening. You're looking into people's faces. You're looking into their hearts. You're looking at their body language. All of that becomes part of the listening process when you really deeply care about who's in front of you. But I want to shift from listening to communicating. Listening is only one part of communicating, even though we're taught that listening is the only part of getting connected with people. Responding has its place. The beauty of communicating, it lies within its ability to connect individuals, share ideas, and foster understanding. Communication can erect bridges between people, allowing them to share, and I stress the word share, because that's what communicating is, experiences, emotions, and thoughts that clarify who they are and what motivates their behavior and lifts the fog that may be blocking a more profound understanding of their nature. It can create bonds and foster relationships, whether they are personal, professional, or cultural. Effective communication can bring people and even countries together in ways that at one time seemed impossible, the same way writing verbatims did. A man named Father Gregory Boyle, I don't know if you've heard of him, works out of California, right? And he worked to bring gang members together and formed a company called Homeboy, where he taught them all sorts of skills and cooking and things like that. These were gangs. These were people who really had turned their backs on any positive thing in society. And somehow he learned through his ways of communication and listening to tell them, to show them that they were worth something, even though society had casted them out. That's an amazing thing. The people who are lost, the people we think are unreachable, the people that we are taught to not even try to reach, like people who are sitting in prison, become the people that we can connect with if we are lovingly communicating and listening to who they are. That was one of my favorite parts of being a chaplain, was going into prisons and listening. And you find amazing people in prison, even though we're taught not to think that. I remember when I was growing up, when I was studying chaplaincy and I was told that my first service would be in a prison, I kept thinking, these are the people I was taught to stay away from. These are the people all of my life I was taught were the bad guys. So how am I going to walk in the door and do the work that I'm supposed to do when I already have this fog and this blocking about them? And for me, I had to pray about it and just say, you know what? Open your heart. Open your world. Open your mind. Lean on the fact that you love people, because I do. And walk in the door and do what you need to do. And I have to tell you that I formed some amazing relationships with people there. People who were never coming out. People who committed heinous crimes. And I was able, and they were able, to show me who they were deep inside before they were conditioned and broken and beaten and raped and sold, that brought them into the jails. Father Gregory received the Peace Prize and was inducted into the California Hall of Fame for the work that he did just through communicating and loving. He was nominated, he was named by Obama as a champion of change. Isn't that a great statement? Isn't that what we all want to do, to help change things into more positive ways of existing together and living? Communication is a solvent of all problems and is the foundation of personal development. That was said by a psychologist, Peter Shepard. How we communicate is not determined by how well we say things, but how well we are understood. Andrew Grove. The most important thing about communication is hearing what isn't said. Peter Drucker. That was one of the things that they did teach us in chaplaincy, that you are listening for what is not being said. I love when people do that. You tell them a story, and they heard you even in deeper ways than you thought they did. And the other step is to come back to you and ask you, what can I do? The art of communication is the language of leaders. James Humes. The art of effective listening is essential to clear communication, and clear communication is necessary to manage any success. James Cash Penney. Carl Jung said, loneliness does not come from having no one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself, and from holding certain views with which others find unadmissible. Many who followed Jung's teaching came to realize that the loneliness that can occur even when surrounded by people, and that often stems from the inability to connect or communicate on a deeper level. I'm somebody who could have incredibly superficial conversations and love them. But at the end of the day, I need to find depth, spiritual depth, human depth, that connects us really strongly, that tells us that we're not so different after all. Communication transcends borders and cultures, especially when it is fueled with love and divine interest in others, and an unwavering commitment toward peace on earth. We forget that it is our interest in others that helps us communicate better. We must show interest in others, no matter what they're talking about, no matter what they're saying. To show interest is part of how we heal one another, so people feel seen and validated and noticed and not dismissed. Through dialogue and discussion, individuals can learn from one another. Communication facilitates the exchange of knowledge and experience, contributing to personal and collective growth. The following passage is from a Jesuit website. I myself attended Ford University for my master's in religious education and spiritual counseling. I have to admit that it was the most amazing time I had. I had some incredible professors who just did not think like most people and were very willing to freely share everything they knew. They were almost like the makers of wisdom, and I really loved them. Communication is the act of transforming or exchanging information from one place to another, from one person to a group of people. It means sharing information or ideas by talking or writing, or receiving information by listening or even reading. It is an interaction between two or more people. Communication plays an important role in human life and society. Along with exchanging information and knowledge, it also helps to build relationships with everyone. St. Ignatius wrote these tips about communicating. Assume the best in others. Create environments of greater love than fear. Be humble. Be respectful. Be good at listening. Tread gently. Feel not alone. True communication is indeed the foundation of intimate human relationships. It helps us understand each other better, resolves conflicts, fosters closer relationships. Social interactions is how we express our ideas, desires, wants, and needs. Everything from education to the workplace and even human societies depend on communication to understand each other. Communication is as old as civilization itself. From time immemorial, man, nature, and animals communicate with each other verbally and non-verbally. Effective communication empowers individuals to voice their opinions and advocate for themselves. It can inspire action and drive change, whether in personal relationships or in larger societies. In essence, the beauty of communication lies in its transformative power to connect, inspire, and create a shared understanding among people all over the world and throughout our lives. Listening, whether it is active, intentional, empathic, critical, or appreciative, is not communication unless it is done with another, unless it is done with a response from the other. We have been conditioned to believe that it is in our search for ways to abandon self-interest, to be more altruistic, to prove we can be fully present for one another. Listening is only half of what we call communicating. Communication has two parts. According to Psychology Today, listening is a process that involves 5 stages: receiving, understanding, remembering, evaluating, and absolutely responding. Our lives are about healing, renewing elements of mutuality, finding ourselves in another or in others, and being impassioned and stimulated about what we behold. We search for communication in all interactions, within our interactions with nature, our interactions with the spirit within ourselves and around us, and within one another. Thank you.
I invite you to join in body or rise in body or spirit as we sing our final hymn, number 335, Once When My Heart Was Passion Free. Once when my heart was passion free, to learn of things divine, the soul of nature sought and freed, outpoured itself in mine. I held the secrets of the deep, held the hands of God. I knew the
Keeping with the theme of true listening, we have these closing words by Brenda Uland. Listening is a magnetic and strange thing, a creative force. When we are listened to, it creates us, makes us unfold and expand. Ideas actually begin to grow within us and come to life. When we listen to people, there is an alternating current, and this recharges us so that we never get tired of each other. And it is this little creative fountain inside us that begins to spring and cast up new thoughts and unexpected laughter and wisdom. Well, it is when people really listen to us with quiet, fascinated attention that the little fountain begins to work again to accelerate in the most surprising ways. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we gather together again. Our service has ended. Let our true service now begin.